My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. I'm only here to even a score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
What up, Night Nation? It's your boy Roger, and this is episode number 111 of the Night Ones podcast. As a reminder, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous rapper, our resident influencer and IG star shooting the breeze talking UCF sports. Remember to like and follow us on IG, YouTube, and check out the 70-plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle and the Big 12 Huddle. So this week, we're doing a little bit of, I don't know, maybe we should call it, talking it out, trying to figure out where we are, and just basic therapy sessions. So for those of you that are out there watching, feel free to be part of the show. In addition to that, we'll be doing a quick preview here for OSU, but we'll also be doing another preview with the OSU Insider, which I'll post later on this week. That should be dropping on Wednesday. For this week, we'll go over Texas Tech, what we should take away, what we should look forward to with OSU. Talk a little bit about the PFF grades, and they weren't as bad as they would seem, which was interesting to me. Believe it or not, Taven Jackson actually had more yards than passing than their quarterback, but unfortunately the yards per attempt was way lower. We'll go back to our keys to the game. We'll talk some hoops. There was a big win against Texas A&M. We'll also talk about the nail biter that just finished with Oakland, which was crazy. I was watching that one. Some other UCF news, and we get to talk about some other UCF sports, some championship sports that we get to talk about this week, as well as check in with our listeners and, of course, you as part of the show. So without further ado, let me go ahead and start this by bringing 1 week hiatus. I'm gonna bring in someone you should all know. Trey Neal, welcome to the stage. And what's with the hashtag 1 week hiatus?
I told you in the group checks, I'm taking a week off from watching these guys, man. I can't do it anymore. So.
Well, this is the last win of the season, I think. So you may want to watch this week. I'm just saying. Oh, wow. Okay. He's upset.
I gotta earn it back.
Okay.
Earn my old man. Fair weather fan.
All right.
You hear me? I'm back.
Yes, you're back. You're back. Your internet went a little robot there on us for a second.
Yeah. It's that.
And he's doing it again. All right. Let's go ahead and bring on Josh.
Yeah, how you guys doing, man?
Doing good, man. You're roboting, so I'm going to bring Josh in. Last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar. I don't know how you follow that, dude.
I can't. No. Listen, I have a new computer. I do have stuff in the background, so I'm going to try to limit that. Hopefully I don't. And I have at least 500 gigs to my computer. 500 gigs.
Are you stuck on Trey right now? Is that what's happening? Is you're stuck on Trey?
No, it's not that. I've done everything necessary to be able to put on a good show, and it better work. So we'll see. I'm on like an i7 32 gig, like fast as all get out computer. So if it's good enough for my business, it'd be good enough to stream live while watching a basketball team. I'd say squeak it out, but again, against a team that already played against 2 number 1 teams in the nation and are better than their record. And I'm with Trey. I didn't watch this week. I was at a wedding most of the time. So it looked like it was as good of a game as I would have expected it to be. So I get one more time. I think I get one more time to make some type of wrap, and that's about it. I think we're done. So I have limited things to do for the rest of the football season on the Night of Ones podcast.
Well, I mean, Josh, you can always do it if you're really hankering to do one. You can do it for the other football teams that we have on campus as well. But that being said, yeah, it was a pretty bad showing. We expected it. We said that last week that it would be a quote unquote slaughter. I was going to do a preview with Texas Tech, one of their Big 12 hosts. I'm glad I didn't. But I would have just repeated what I said on here anyway. It's some interesting things, as takeaways. We'll get into the PFF as well. We just didn't look competitive from the get-go. The defense gave up 2 quick touchdowns, both of them within a minute. One, I think, was the first possession was 109. We gave up a touchdown. Our defensive backs were falling all over the place, but we weren't getting push up front. I know Nigel Kelly and Malachi Lawrence, they weren't playing like their normal selves. Obviously, they were hurt. They were injured this week playing, but they still toughed it out and played. They started by running to the edges and off tackle. It was just a tough game all the way around. I mean, the defense didn't play well in the first half. And really, by the second half, they already had their 2s and 3s in. So you can't really judge it, but they look like the number 6 team in the country who dropped $55 million on their roster. And we didn't, because we didn't. You know what I mean? The bad part about this is we came into this game with a ton of injuries. We came out of this game with even more injuries. So that's the tough part. Chris Dahmerkamp, I was worried about him. He got what we used to look like a stinger, but he was knocked out. I mean, he was completely KO'd during that game. Played like we used to play, Trey, where you're separating the player from the
man
ball.
from the ball.
Yep, exactly. And he got hit. He got crunched actually from 2 sides. One helmet hitting this way, this other one hit him in the ear hole. So that was tough. Taven Jackson, there wasn't much doing against that defense. There just really wasn't. Our offensive line did not hold up well. There were a couple of long passes in our text talk this week. We were talking with Alan. He was like, "Where's the long passes?" And it was like right before the half, there was one long pass. So it was like it was interesting to say the least. And it's just, if you go back and look through our text talk, I think we were just voicing what everybody else was this team looked outclassed. But more importantly, this team, at least in the first half, they looked shook. The first couple of possessions, they didn't look like they were prepared for the moment. The environment was pretty crazy, and they looked shook. I mean, Taven Jackson looked shook. They had bad snaps, had a fumble early on that we recovered. It was just a bad look all the way around, and it didn't get any better from there. As far as the team stats are concerned, we can talk about those, but we had 13 first downs. We were 4 for 13 on third downs, and on fourth down efficiency, we were 1 for 3. We do seem to have gotten over that bugaboo the last 2 games of being able to pick up 1 yard. I don't know why it took midway through the season, but we figured that out. Texas Tech had 26 first downs. They were 8 of 13 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down. But this offense was just completely anemic. 230 total yards this game. This is the same offense that was averaging over 450 yards per game before. So that should tell you something. Obviously injuries are part of it, but there's something wrong. It's not just how these guys are playing, but there's something ever since the bye week. I don't know what they did in the bye week, but something happened in the bye week there. People screaming for Davi to come in. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to tell you this. Davi's not your savior. No. Davi had a total of 200 snaps, Coach Frost said, with the ones all season long. He's a freshman. he's you don't bring him again against Texas Tech unless you want him to get hurt, and you think that Taven Jackson's bad against Texas Tech. You put freshman small Davi out there. Other than they put him in there to try to get him in for some runs to see if they could break something loose. That didn't work. He did find some things there. Our running back room is a mess. Nixon wasn't out there for most of it. Adai was carrying most of the carries for us. I don't understand that one. I don't know why we don't have Nixon as the number one back. We did against Houston, and he looked pretty good against Houston. So I didn't understand that. But for those of you that are saying, hey, let's throw Davi out there. Davi is he's not the answer. All you're going to do is get him killed, and it's going to turn into turnover. So as long as we can roll with Taven, what good or bad, we roll with Taven because we've got literally nobody behind him. We've got Brock Ansel behind him. So there's just nobody there.
You're talking like the Cleveland Browns. Like, you don't put Shador out there. You can't. And you don't trade everyone else away. We didn't trade everyone away, but right? Dylan Gabriel is the best you got. Taven Jackson is the best we got. And whether people are hurt or redshirting or whatever is going on, and that's not a slight on Davi. That's not both. It's not a slight on Davi. I think he has some potential to be something of a player. I just don't know what that is, and it is not right now. So we're just hoping somehow BYU completely chokes in Provo and we win the next game.
Josh, that's not going to happen.
Or we have a good GPA. We have a good GPA. Yeah.
So
good GPA.
I think maybe Alan may have been prescient when he said the only way we make a bowl game is if it's a 5-7 team and we get one of these extra bowl GPA, like you said, bowl awards. But the focus is on OSU this week. That is a winnable game. The offense, when they put their second teamers in, the offense moved the ball. They're outclassed, man. The athletes that were on the field for Texas Tech, we knew it was going to be a tough go. I thought the defense would bowl up more in the first half, but they didn't. So I was a little surprised by that, but they took advantage of the edges, and both of our edges were hurt, our starting edges. As far as attempts were concerned, Taven Jackson was 27 of 33. He averaged 5.4 yards per pass. Texas Tech's quarterback was 27 of 37. He had 294 passing yards versus our 178. Again, that goes to the long downs versus check downs, etc. We started to get the screens going, but early on, our screens were terrible. I mean, if you watch the blocking, and Trey, I know you were watching it, they were releasing their blocks like way early. The receivers were releasing their blocks way, way, way too early on that, and that causes those screens to buckle. Yeah, and then we really couldn't run very much, but both because we got behind so fast, but secondly, we only averaged 1.8 yards per attempt rushing. 1.8. I don't think I've ever seen a UCF team that I can remember that only got 1.8 yards per attempt for 52 total rushing yards on 29 attempts. That's crazy. Trey, do you remember that? Or Josh, do you remember any team? We've always had good running backs. Now, again, and Frost finally made it to
0-12 year.
I don't know. That would be an interesting thing. If Alan were here this week, I would ask him to look that up real quick as far as a stat is concerned. When the last time we had a 1.8 yards per attempt. Adai did what he could, but there wasn't much to be had there. And again, Tavion Swint's out. Miles Montgomery's out. I don't know why Nixon isn't running the ball more. I don't know if we were trying to save him for OSU or what. I don't understand that. We had 2 turnovers. We had a fumble that we gave up, and we threw 1 interception. We dropped 2 interceptions. Literally 2 interceptions, and we could have had 3 in this game. So I mean, it's good to see that we're getting our hands on the ball and we have opportunities like that. That seems to be picking up steam, but it's a little late in the season for that. it just makes Houston that much more hurtful of a loss, right? Because if we would have pulled it out against Houston, then we're probably looking at a bowl team, and we're looking at the season in an entirely different lens. Goes back to what we said. Obviously we got spanked. I think the biggest part is the offense just doesn't look like it has any signs of life or any direction on going up for next year. Taven Jackson, his QBR was 51.9. Wow. Jaden Nixon
That's
was
great.
Jaden Nixon was 15 carries for 32 yards, 2.1 yards per attempt. Adai actually averaged 7.5 yards per attempt. So for the team, as a team, we averaged, I don't know who team is, I guess the rest of the team, it says 1 for -8 yards. I don't know. Dylan Wade showed out again, looked good. He was, and Thomas Jr. looked good again. I think, what we talked about before, those are two guys that we would want to keep on the roster that have done really, really well. Wade and Charles had 2 receptions for 34 yards. Good to see him. His average was 17 yards. We just didn't throw the ball. Part of it was there were people in Taven's face. Part of it was Taven didn't see them. I think he's getting sped up. Chris Domerkant had 4 catches for 25 yards. But everything was short yardage, and Kylan Fox had something as well. Defensively, Damari Henderson had another standout game. We've been waiting on him to really show out and show what we're expecting. He's one part of the twins that we had recruited that were 4-stars. He had 12 total tackles, 8 solos. But the bad part about that is he's a safety, which means that he's coming down on rush defense. Covering things over the top. Cole Kozlowski, again, 8 total tackles, 3 solos, 1.5 tackles for a loss. Jefferson LaFontant again this week with a half tackle for a loss. And Derek LeBlanc again, 2 tackles, 2 solos, and 1 TFL. So LeBlanc was another one of those highly touted recruits that seems to be coming into his own. It's good to see him on the stat sheet week after week. And he seems to be getting better. That's definitely a bright spot for this team. RJ Jackson Jr., believe it or not, he had 2 blocked. RJ Jackson Jr. is pretty good at deflecting passes. Every single game, he seems to get 1 or 2 passes that he's deflected. And then Jaden Bellamy defended 1 as well. That's about it. I mean, what do you say about this? Trey, I know you've got a lot to say on all of this, so I'm going to let you kind of wax poetic a little bit as a former player. I mean, I didn't see the effort that I'm used to seeing. I didn't see any of that kind of stuff. Tell me what you think. What are you seeing? What do we expect? What do we take away from this? What positive spots do you see? I know you said last week or the week before last, you said we need to go through the tough stuff, to be able to build for the future. Yeah. So give me your perspective on all of this.
Yeah, I mean, just recap of the game. We got destroyed. We kind of knew that. Texas Tech they're a really, really, really good football team. If they're not in the Final Four teams playing, I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of the Final Four teams playing. That's how talented and well-rounded they've been bought. I would say built, but they were bought. And then, that's the game. That's whatever it takes.
They are number 6 in the country right now, by the way.
Yeah, and they might be going a little higher because a few teams lost. Bama lost in front of them, so they are a really, really good football team. But like you said, I think the disappointing thing is you didn't see the fight. I talked about that. Most of the games that we've lost this year, am I frustrated with aspects of the game? Play calling at some points, effort at some points, sure. But I never questioned or was these guys quit during the game. I don't know. I think I was, who was it I was telling? And they were because the game couldn't, there was some game playing before us. So we didn't I didn't see the beginning. And when it popped up, we had the ball and it was already 14-0. And I think, like you said, 2 minutes had been gone by. And you could tell from then they were like, we lost this game. The way that game played just from 2-3 minutes into the game, they were like, we lost. And that's the worst part about it. And I get it. I've seen it. I've watched it live happen when I was playing. And that's where you want to find like leaders of guys who you just have to push through it, man. It's the sad part about it. You have to push through the young guys. And I think that's why Frost I think that's why he played Davi. Just because he's a young guy. Let's see what he can do. I think we all know Davi might not be I don't personally see him as the future, but
he's not. He's going to be a role player at most.
Correct. Yeah. But we don't know that unless he plays. And, it's not like in this game, it's not like we have much going. You don't want to get Taven killed because he was getting killed. And, Davi, you don't want to get him killed either, but you want to eventually see what he can do. So I think that's was a little bit of what Frost was thinking. Just like, we're probably going to win this week, like you're saying. So Taven's going to be playing majority of the snaps, and then BYU, that's the game of our lives of, bowl eligibility. So Taven's probably going to be taking most of those snaps as well. So this is the game. Really, this is Davi's only chance really to get meaningful snaps before he gets in the competition battle next year in the spring and off season,
I hope so.
But yeah,
because
it's just disappointing. And that's what
I hope so, because at the end of the day, right, like, I don't want Davi to like get any more snaps either because Taven's playing terribly or because like he's injured. I mean, as it is, the story of this game, injuries, we are down to one of our roster running backs that we were expecting to be, getting meaningful playing time in Nixon. Adai was 4th or 5th string running back, and he's out there getting carries.
He was behind Stacey Gage. So, 4th or 5th string.
And Tavion Swint. He was behind Miles Montgomery. He was behind Jaden Nixon, Stacey Gage, Tavion Swint, and then there was him. I mean, he was a guy that was scout teaming it, right? So he's getting meaningful minutes, and you've got our 3rd string center. We're on our 3rd string center. Obviously, the QB situation we've talked about. Both of our edge guys are hobbled. We've lost other guys for the season already. Sinclair's out. We didn't talk about him. Our big Georgia Tech transfer is out. We got 2 tackles that are out, etc. I mean, I don't think I've seen a more decimated team collectively as far as the starters are concerned on a UCF roster since I've been watching UCF football. Now that goes back to the level of depth. We weren't expecting a ton of it because of the situation that was happening. So that's got to be, as we roll the dice for next year, that's got to be something we talk about is, okay, not only do we get talent that can start, but can we get talent that can be depth pieces as well so that we can survive a Big 12 Power 4 season? Because I think that's the biggest thing that's smacking us in the face now too.
And that's even when you watch Texas Tech, like when they brought their backups in, they were still a very functional football team, very functional. We haven't been like that since 2019, maybe 2020. Like that's where I think probably our last of like real quality depth behind everybody. That's always been the game. That's what typically wins out in these long seasons and these physical seasons. Like the athletes are just getting bigger, faster, stronger. So you need more guys because the games, as much as they're taking the violence out, it kind of offsets with how good and how strong and how explosive the athlete becomes.
Well, I can tell you this. I was watching something. Georgia had a kid on the sideline. That's one of their recruits, right? From Athens. He's 6'6", 330 pounds, and he's an 8th grader.
Jeez.
An 8th grader. I would not have survived in this Division I football era. I honestly, if you guys have followed us at all, I played linebacker and was recruited to go play for West Point for Army as a linebacker. And, I'm about 5'11", And I'm at that time I was right at 200 pounds. There's no way I could play Division I football in today's game. I don't even know if I could play Division II with some of the size of these kids. I mean, seriously, I'm not even joking.
It's crazy how, it's almost moving faster than you'd think, just how advanced these kids are getting. And it's not like these kids are just big, the old school, big sloppy kid that's just slow footed and like a baby deer that can't really walk. No, these kids are well-functioning athletes at 8th grade at 6'6", 300 pounds. Like, these are high-level players. Like, you have to build them in factories. But I think that's just the most disappointing part. That's my whole 1 week hiatus. Like, I've been supporting these guys because I know winning and losing that's just a variance of football. That happens whether things you can control and things you can't. But when you quit, it's just I don't like it, just because the one thing you can control is what tape you put. That's what I've always been taught. Whether you're up 50, whether you're down 50, you control what you put on tape. And when you're just out there just going through the motions, it's like, well, if you're going to go through the motions, why would I waste my time watching? As much as I'm a big supporter of UCF, as much as all of us are big supporters of UCF, why should we give 3 hours of our day when it's not like you guys are doing it? And it's not that we don't support them. It's just because we've been supporting them all year. And I remember, Roger, you supported us through 0-12. Whether I would have done that or not, that's different. But again, you did it. But it's just like, for me, I hate seeing talented guys quit. Like, because I've seen it live and in person. Like, I saw 0-12 guys who were uber talented quit. And I'm like, I've never understood that. That's just me,
Well, they've got incentive now too. I mean, no matter what you think about NIL, they've got incentive, right? Because they're playing for, whether they're on this team or the next team, they're playing for the next contract at this point. I mean, if you think about it that way. So yeah, what you get on tape, you don't want guys that are showing that they're giving up, et cetera, right? So that's that part. What can Frost do? Like, what do you think Frost is doing, and what can Frost do? Because one of the big things was, the culture and no quit and all that stuff. I think we would have been all okay if we just got beat. But, what is Scott Frost doing? Having been in his locker room, what is Scott Frost doing, and what do you think he can do for this team? Obviously, they're going to get up for OSU because it's a winnable game. But, what do you think he's doing in the locker room right now?
Yeah, I think that's what he's doing. Like, I think that's what he's doing. He's weeding out the guys when it gets tough. I said this earlier in the year. I think we were 3-0. I was like, yeah, it's awesome when you're winning. It's always great. But when adversity hits, when you get into that lull, that slump, you always show your true colors as a team. And that's what Coach Frost is going to try to weed out, whether it's seniors that might be playing and, it might be time to kind of cut back. I remember when we were at, Nebraska my last year, it was, once we were like, all right, we're not going to bowl game, they started cutting back the reps of the seniors, because our tape is our tape at this point. 2-3 more games isn't going to change much. So it's time to start getting these young guys some reps. You're not going to take all the reps, but you're going to start getting more. That's what Coach Frost is going to start doing. He's going to start, okay, some of these guys who might not be here, and it's completely different now because, like you said, they can up and leave and go chase a bigger contract. So it's like, all right, who do we see for our future? Like, what are the guys we see going forward that can contribute? They might not be, superstars, but that are going to contribute. That's who we need to start shifting towards, while also wanting to stay competitive. So you're not just going to, like people are saying.
But who do we have? Who do we have seriously that we can trot out there? That's the problem.
I mean, that's the problem with the injuries. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what you just want to see. You want to see guys who just want to play, whether it's, for their own selfish reasons of trying to make money. That's another incentive. That's a lot of people on Sundays play for that exact reason. Or if it's just guys that just want to play football. Like, at the end of the day, that's what you're there to do. You're there to play football. You're not there to collect a check. You're not there to take pictures and sign autographs. You're there to perform on Saturday or, Thursday, whenever we play. You're there to perform on those days. And if you don't do that, if you don't want to do that, you need to be weeded out. And I think that's the growing pains of, transitioning locker room, transitioning head coach, 70 players in the transfer portal like that. These are the growing pains you're going to go through. Because there's a goal that he said, and he said it from the beginning. This isn't going to turn around in 1 year. And he was like, definitely don't think it's going to turn around. To be here, who's not, because once you lose the culture, you lose everything. That's what I've learned through my time. If you lose the culture, you lose everything. So if you have guys that are just going out there not caring, if they're making the most money, what is 2 games left? Who cares? That money's already pretty much gone. You've already paid most of their money out. So let's get guys who want to be here, who want to play, and figure it out from there and build it from there. I think the class we have coming in, from what I've been told and what I've watched, they're a talented little group of guys. In the transfer portal, there's always guys, if you can find them. There's plenty of guys who go overlooked or have issues that, you could take your chance on. But I think that's what he's doing. I think that's what he's trying to do in these last 2 weeks, is just see who wants to be here and who wants to get after it. Frost is a guy's guy. He's a throwback coach. As much as he's, modern day, he's a football player first. So he knows who wants to play football and who doesn't. So.
Well, I will say this, one of the things that I've been told, that I've read recently is that Scott's pretty much locked up most of the defensive guys that he wants to keep on the roster for next year. So meaning contractually. So instead of waiting until the end of the season, having those discussions like we've done in the past, it sounds like our GM has been in the background working those contracts already for next year. So that's a good thing. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, Taven Jackson, everybody was, you mentioned this in the thread about him being injured, not being injured, whatever. He had a sleeve on his one leg, right? And then he got gator rolled, which was not flagged. It should have been flagged because it was a late gator roll. And now he was hobbling again. So the other thing too, the smoke on the field. Did you guys? I know.
Yeah.
Obviously, Josh didn't see that.
Early, I turned the game off, and then when I turned it back on when the smoke started coming on, and I'm like, this is kind of crazy.
I don't know how they can force them to play, to be honest with you. How do you force? Because it was coming out of the half. We were driving. We were getting ready to attempt a long pass, and there's no way with all that red smoke that you could have seen the ball through that smoke. It's not like it's fog. It's smoke that Texas Tech put on the field. I don't know how they didn't stop play and wait for that to clear or have something come out, because that was ridiculous. Now, of course, it was clear by the time Texas Tech took the field again, but it was ridiculous that you couldn't see. There was no way. They waited a little bit for it to clear, and then they told them the receivers and the defensive backs, Texas Tech's defensive backs, couldn't locate the ball either. I don't know how Texas Tech doesn't get fined or whatever. I know they can't do their tortilla throws anymore, which is fine. But that if you can't see the ball because there's smoke, red smoke on the field, there's got to be something done about that. The refs can't let the play continue if you don't even have an opportunity to complete a forward pass because you can't see the freaking ball. It's ridiculous. So, and that was frustrating as well. But that wraps it up. Other than we can go through the PFF, the offense. This was the lowest ranking for the offense as far as PFF was concerned. Although Taven Jackson didn't have a bad rating. He was a 66.5 rating, which on the rating scale is average to good. When the pocket was kept clean, he was 63.3. Under pressure, 68.6. Not blitz, 67.8. When blitz, 59.6. Deep balls, he was 0 for 2. One of them, quite frankly, it didn't work. It was thrown well. The other one was that smoke pass, right? That was thrown into the smoke. So, and then he had 3 drops 3 drops that collegiate level players should make. One was Wade, that was in his hands. He had, if he would have put 2 hands on it, he would have caught the ball. The other one was a die. It like literally hit him right here, like by the face mask, and that would have been a first down. He didn't catch it, right? I did like some of our play calling this game, some of the formations that we had and some of the intricate things that we did, like the forward shovel pass play that we had, etc. So I did like seeing some creativity out of Scott Frost, so that was awesome. Dylan Wade was our highest rated player at 71.7. Then our left tackle Jacob Maeva. No idea. It's the first time I've seen that name all season, so that should tell you something. Left tackle. Davi had 4 snaps. He was 67.6. Chris Domerkamp 67.2. Dwayne Thomas Jr. 64.8. He's going to be an important piece to this offense on a go-forward basis. Where you say, we talked about what can we bring forward, what pieces should we look out for. Dwayne Thomas Jr., if we get a few more pieces on the receiver end that we can play with, he's going to be a dangerous guy. And, obviously the offensive line to allow plays to develop. That's the other thing people don't realize is a lot of times, especially against teams like Texas Tech, the plays aren't developing because they don't have time to, because the offensive line is just letting them go through. The one fumble was not on Taven Jackson. That was on the center, snapping the ball far to the right. He did a good job of corralling it, knocking it to the ground and getting down on it, right? Jaden Nixon, he had 36 plays, 60.5. Wade and Charles, 44 snaps, 63.1. And then everybody else was in the 50s. So, and a lot of our line, including Cameron Kinney, it was 48.7. They were below in the 40s, so not good. As far as defensive players were concerned, Malachi Lawrence led the way, 82.5. RJ Jackson Jr., 77.9. Lewis Carter, who has been playing really, really well, 76. Jamal Johnson, 74.8. John Walker, 71.3. Derek LeBlanc, 71.3. Young defensive tackle. So that's good for us on a go-forward basis, right? Cole, 69.7. So again, defensive line played fairly well. Again, we knew this was going to be bad. It turned out bad. I was expecting a little bit more fight out of the defense early. Didn't happen. And we move on to OSU. So that being said, let's go ahead and swim it to our Oklahoma State game. And let's talk a little bit about OSU football. So one of the things that I will say is that, we are 89.8% favorites in this game. And there's a reason we're 90% favorites in this game. This is an Oklahoma State team that has lost in their last 5 games against KSU 14-6, which was interesting. You don't see very many scores like that in the Big 12. And that was last weekend. They lost 14-6 versus KSU. Super weird. They lost to Kansas 38-21. They lost at Texas Tech 42-0. They lost versus Cincinnati 49-17 and at Houston 39-17. So Oklahoma State has a freshman quarterback. He's 6'3". Zach Flores. He's 123 of 204, 2 TDs, 5 interceptions. He was a guy that they were putting a lot of faith in going forward. Obviously, Oklahoma State's still going through a coaching search as well, although it is rumored that they are putting the full court press on a former UCF coach that we would all know, a former tight end coach that we would all know, that currently coaches the Cows. Someone that honestly be interesting to see. He was on Heupel's staff and see, him potentially on the other opposing sideline at Oklahoma State. I don't have a lot of confidence in him at all. And who I'm talking about is Golish, obviously, if you guys haven't figured it out yet. They're targeting him for a head coach. They're in the middle of a head coaching search. Supposedly, the Cows lost this weekend. Great. So they're pretty much out of their playoff race and the AAC championship race, which is great. But Golish is left here. Yeah, Golish left here in a bad way. He got into several skirmishes on the way out. So I hope Oklahoma State doesn't pick him up, because I don't think it would be a good pickup for them. But that's the situation they are from a coaching perspective. This game, Zane, being a freshman quarterback, he's 6'3", 215 pounds. Away, he's completing 56% of his passes, although in the month of November, his completion percentage did go up to 71.9%. He's averaging 5.2 yards in away games per attempt, at 7.3 in the month of November, which again is 2 games. But again, you saw the score, so they're not scoring with those either. He does have a high turnover ratio, so 2 TDs to 3 interceptions, and his rating is 101.4. So again, this is a kid that's learning. This is a kid that, he's got the physical attributes that you need, but he's also got a team that isn't very good either. So, it'll be interesting that he's someone that we're going to have to get after. Their leading running back is Fields. He's got 105 carries and 1 TD and 527 yards. So he's averaging around 4 or 5 yards carry. Their top receiver is a kid named Freeman. He's got 41 receptions for 395 yards and 3 TDs. Again, those are low numbers if you look at it. Dwayne Thomas Jr., and we've been spreading the ball around quite a bit, on average to 11 and 12 different receivers. He's got 441 yards on 46 receptions. They've got their leading linebacker, a defender, is Gregory. He's got 3 sacks. They don't have a very good defensive line, so I expect our offensive line will at least be able to hold up against their defensive line. And their leading tackler is their safety, Robertson, with 62 tackles, which is also good for us, because if their safety is the one who's having to help on run support, etc., that's going to put us in a good position, hopefully, to win. And I'm going to add Josh back here because he dropped off for a second.
Yep.
There he is.
Should be better.
Okay. So what are the keys to this game? Okay.
Hello.
Obviously, we all expect us to win this game. What are the keys to this game? What can the offense do? I mean, honestly, if we score over 21 points, Oklahoma State loses this game. I hope we score a lot more than that, but if we score over 21 points, they have not been able to produce any kind of offense. We get after their starting QB, who's a freshman, and I think we can make life hard on him, on Flores. And I think if you have those 2 things, our defense is good enough that no matter what, and their defense is porous enough that I think we win this game. Josh, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, for as banged up as we are, Oklahoma State hasn't been this bad in quite some time. So I know Gundy isn't there and all that, and I haven't dug deep into what they are doing right now. But the numbers speak for themselves. Albeit they're getting a little closer with the Kansas State loss. They're going from being blown out like us at Texas Tech to being within 1 score possessions, or maybe 3 score possessions. But yeah, I feel like even with as banged up as we are, at home we play really pretty darn good consistently, even though that space game lost. Like, we still played a better game than expected, given injuries and all these other things, and I expect us to win. I think we're going to win by like 40 something like the last time we played them? No. But do I expect to win? Yeah. And truthfully, I'd say the keys of the game on my end is just us actually believing in ourselves and playing like we should, regardless of injuries, regardless of everything else. I think it's the mental game that we need to win, not the physical game. If we could do that, at least we can get to 5 wins and see what happens from there.
Yeah, I think our defense will take care of business. This is a young kid. He's just starting. We've not done well away. We played much better at home. I expect us. Their defense isn't great, so I expect us to be able to play a lot better against their defense, and I expect us to win this game. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and it to our pick your poison score prediction of the week. Last week, I had predictions from Alan, myself, and Trey. Trey checked in at 38-9, Texas Tech. So it's pretty close. Alan had 40-13, and I had 32-21. Obviously, I was the loser, and since Ben and Josh did not get their they actually lose, so I don't have to worry about that this week. So they get 100-0. All right, but let's go ahead and talk about this week. So Trey, I think, went on a potty break, so let's go ahead and start with you, Josh. What is your prediction for this week?
So I think we're going to win. So we have that, and I feel like, based off of what I know of this team, we can put up points when we put some things together. Who knows what we can put together with wide receivers and running backs being not what they were like even 5 weeks ago. I still feel like we can score 30 points. So I was going to go more of like a 34 to like 10. Nah, 34 to 13. How about that? 34 to 13.
Did you look at the notes?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I had mine in there already. I have 38-14. I think our offense will be able to move the ball enough, and we may get a turnover that turns into points too. We've been one of the bright spots defensively, if you've been watching the last several games, is we've gotten turnovers and put the opposing defenses in bad positions. So we don't have to sustain drives that way. So I do think that we will be able to score points off of defense. And I also think that their defense is porous enough that we're going to be able to move the ball and score some points. So combine that with the fact that we're playing at home. My prediction for this week is 38-14 UCF, obviously. Last week, again, was the first time I have ever picked against UCF, and I unfortunately was proven right. I guess we'll get Trey's whenever he's done with his sabbatical there, and we'll move on from there. So next we have other UCF news. So a couple of things to talk about there. We've been kind of following along, and I know this is kind of weird about the Big Ten situation, but I am going to tie it into UCF. So we talked about the last few weeks about the infusion of cash in the Big Ten and how USC and Michigan is fighting that, et cetera. Some more news this week. The universities met, and so one of the compromises is that they're trying to use to push through is that they're going to give USC and Michigan 2 years to either opt into this or not. If they do not opt in after 2 years into the deal, the school forfeits its capital infusion, so $240 million that they would be getting out of this. And its grant of rights ends in 2036. In addition to that, the amount that their conference distribution would also go down as a percentage. So that's pretty huge penalty for not taking it. It's almost highway robbery, to be honest with you. And considering USC and Michigan are the ones doing this, is interesting. The rest of them would be extended to 2044. So what that means is that whatever the Big Ten's grant of rights or whatever their contract is would be fixed through 2044.
Jeez.
We saw the ACC do that, and we saw how that turned out, right?
Yeah.
But that frees up more money and more maneuverability for UCF and the Big 12 if they are locked in for that long. Our rights are up in 2031. We'll start negotiating those about 2 years out. So if you think of it from that perspective, if the Big Ten goes through with this, and it looks like by all accounts they are, they're locked into 2044. That stabilizes that. It'll be interesting to see, if they get that PE investment, does that signal that we have stability in the Power Four conferences for a while? Because if they're locked into 2044, it's going to be hard for them to add additional schools. So, and what schools would they add, right? We've been talking about what happens in the next go round. So that's interesting, especially with regard to the stability of the Big 12 and the ACC, because I've been calling for the ACC to start getting picked apart as well. If they go ahead.
As I say, what, and I get Michigan and USC's point. Why? What? So here's the thing: unless they must see something we don't. The reason Roger and I both have businesses. I have a completely debt-free business. I have to see something really significant on the back end if I were going to take on some type of loan or debt, because private equity is just, in essence, it's a loan. Like, woohoo, you raised $10 million. Well, now you got to pay that back somehow. So I don't understand why a conference with this much money, with this much clout already, thinks they need to go out and get even more money. It doesn't make logistical sense to me unless they feel like the TV money is going to bottom out at some point and they want to get ahead of that potential. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I mean,
I don't understand it.
Even if the TV money bottoms out, though, the only way PE investment or that type of investment makes sense from a business sense is if you're putting an infusion in cash in the business now and you're going to sell out of it and you're betting that you're going to create more value than you're borrowing within a specified period of time, right? And right now, like, I don't see that for the Big Ten. And so the other part about this is it locks them into whatever deal that they're going to get. And if they get that deal, I'm more interested in what that does for the stability for college football. The only thing, and this is what we've talked about last week, was, okay, so let's say Michigan and USC opt out of this deal. Their grant of rights ends in 2036. So what happens then? They're already looking at a reduced revenue share as well. The Big Ten is really trying to put the screws to them to do that. Is that enough to push Big Ten to push USC and
Michigan
out?
They can do. Michigan can run.
Well, then at that point, do they start sucking up some teams from the ACC when that splits up and some of them go to the SEC? And now we've still got 4 power conferences, but now we've got a power conference that has 2 of the primary brands. And what does that do for the Big 12? Right? That's the other question, because we really don't have any of those blue blood type of brands as part of the Big 12 conference. So it's interesting.
They could go independent. Michigan is a big enough school with enough alumni, with enough history, with enough money from alumni.
They're not going to
be Notre Dame.
They're not
theoretically.
They're not going to do that because one, not just, think about it. If they're out of the Big Ten, then it's going to be tough for them to schedule them, except for maybe Ohio State. And then on top of that, the reason Notre Dame signed with the ACC was playoff access, right? So now you've got Notre Dame, Michigan, and USC competing for that independent slot. That's not going to bode well if only one of them are going to have an opportunity at that every year. So I think that would shake things up more often. I could see Michigan grabbing Notre Dame along with USC, because USC and Notre Dame have a rivalry going back years and years and years and years and years, and then picking off some teams from the ACC. That would stabilize, I think, the Big 12 for a while, put a counter to this Power 2 movement, maybe slow that process down in this relegation movement. But in the end, are those with that additional conference right now, we're getting more money than the ACC long term. Would that take more money away from the Big 12 that they could potentially increase our share? Not in 2031, right? Because that'll be negotiated by then, but 2036. And then does the Big 12, cover more up there? So again, this is a long way away, but it is relative to us. The other interesting thing is that Penn State's Jay Paterno during the call, he said that the Big Ten athletes will actually start signing their rev share contracts with the Big Ten enterprises. So not with the individual schools themselves, but with Big Ten enterprises, because now you've got these investors in here as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out from paying the players. because that's a whole new model that we don't have accounted for right now if the conference starts paying it out. And that would actually be a good thing, in my opinion, because I think for schools like the Big 12 schools, if that pushes us closer to a collective bargaining model, then I think that's better for the Big 12 long term than where we are today. So that's something else to think about, talk about, etc. as well. Okay, let's go ahead and do our Big 12 score review and our standings review. Right now, UCF is 3 from the bottom. We're tied with Colorado at 1-6, and Oklahoma State is 0-7 in conference. Texas Tech leads the way at 7-1, BYU 6-1, Utah 5-2. The Cougs are 5-2. They should have been 5-3, but that means that they are ranked. So we actually have 4 ranked teams. Arizona State is 5-2, Cincinnati 5-2, Arizona 4-3, K-State 4-3, Iowa State's fallen off a cliff at 3-4, TCU's 3-4, Baylor's 3-4, Kansas is 3-4, and West Virginia's 2-6, so which was our one win. BYU beat TCU 44-13 this past week. BYU's that team. They're them, Utah, and I think Texas Tech are definitely the leaders for us as a strong Big 12 contingent, which is good for us as far as the conference is concerned and how it looks relative to the other conferences, because it has resulted in 4 ranked teams for us. Utah beat Baylor 55-28, really spanked them. Arizona beat Cincinnati 30-24, so squeaked by Cincinnati. I'm not impressed with Cincinnati, to be honest. I'm still not. I think I'm just not impressed by them. K-State beat OSU 14-6. I don't know what happened during that game, but that's really, really strange.
Yeah.
And then Arizona State beat West Virginia 25-23. They held to their guns this week, so it's really, really interesting. So the 4 teams that are ranked, Texas Tech in the AP is ranked number 6, BYU number 11, number 13 Utah, and Houston at number 25. And the coaches, Texas Tech is number 7, BYU is number 11, Utah's 14, and Houston is 24. And that rounds it out for this week's other UCF news. I really do love the fact that we have 4 ranked teams. I think that bodes well for our conference and the narrative around our conference. As far as football is concerned, we already know that basketball, we are the SEC of basketball. But as far as football is concerned, the more of this we can do, the better it is leading up to 2031. And it also gives us the opportunity to have more than one team in the playoffs, which is really, really, really going to be important. So let's go ahead and swiv it and talk about a little hoops. Hoops is in full swing. Exciting game against Texas A&M. Well, exciting game today, too, if you guys didn't catch it. The exciting thing for me about Texas A&M was the last 11 minutes. UCF went back and forth. We got behind and then went on a huge run in the last 11 minutes of the second half. The other thing that was exciting for me is watching Bowl. You've heard me talk about him all season long about how, him bringing the ball down and him being out of, so again, young guy, no minutes, big guy. The last 2 games, he's played really, really well. He's positioned himself well on offense. We're making the extra pass, both inside and outside. Our 3-point shooting is nuts. It's 56% for the season so far. We're second in the NCAA in 3-point shooting, which is absolutely nuts. Pacheco really turned it on last game. He was dropping everything. Burke has been dropping trays. Kugel played better. Kugel played a lot better towards that last 11 minutes. That helped too, because he drove the paint. He wasn't driving the baseline. He was. We had people cutting. We had extra passes around. The only thing that worries me a little bit going into the season about our basketball team is the extra passes that we're making. Some of them are cross-court passes, and in the Big 12, when we get into conference play, those are not going to fly.
Yeah.
So we got to be
Those will be
careful.
picked off.
Right. But a lot of movement, we're trying the pick and roll. We're not really getting the pick and roll as much, but we are getting a lot of slashers in the back, which we've been waiting on and talking about for the past 3 years. The other thing is our defense played really, really, really well. We were able to break. A&M tried to press us in that middle part of the game. So right before half and then the first part of the second half, and they ran out of steam. So Johnny actually strategically played that really, really well. One, the players were able to break the press. They really didn't have a problem getting out of it, so they weren't bothered by it as much. Two, when we got towards the waning parts of the game, there was a timeout, a very timely timeout that Johnny Dawkins called, where he got everybody back. We switched to a press defense, and Texas A&M couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So they never got their half-court offense set. They never got transition offense set. So it really resulted in us being able to pull it out. We hit our field goals or our free throw percentage, but even our field goal percentage is in the 40s. So this team can consistently hit, can consistently hit their free throws, which is something that's been lacking for us as well. This team, we went 28 for 56, 50% field goal shooting, 14 for 28, 50% on 3-point shooting, which is nuts against Texas A&M. Texas A&M was 21 for 57 field goal, and 9 for 29 from behind the arc. Free throws, we were 16 of 17, which was important. So 94% free throw percentage. We held them to 37% on field goal percentage. And that was largely because of that press, because they were getting what they wanted in the first half. Rebounds, we out-rebounded them, 33-32. That's something else we were looking. They got more offensive rebounds, but Stillwell has done a really, really good job. Burke was in there, and Fulks was in there as well. In there, they really focused on Kugel and took Kugel away. Kugel's been playing really well. He was really frustrated against Oakland as well. That kind of showed, but the rest of the team was able to pick up the rest of the offensive scoring, so that's good. We're not limited there. We had 8 steals, 3 blocks, 16 turnovers, so that's a little much. But we got 20 points off of turnovers, 11 fast break points, which is awesome. We're speeding up but 23 assists. Fulks is averaging about 6 assists per game. BJ and DJ were, right around 3 typically, or 4. And he is definitely, Ben and I were having a conversation in our text talk during the game. He's definitely a facilitator, which is okay, but it frustrates me a little bit because we do need it. It's almost like Fulks is the point guard that passes, and we have the shooting guard that really should be the facilitator who takes it to the paint. So it's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. It's certainly an interesting dynamic. But the good news is I'm seeing a lot of good passing. I'm seeing pretty good defense. Hands are active. We'll get called a lot more in Big 12 play for that, so we got to be careful with that. They are playing the press well. They seem to handle pressure well, and they're hitting their free throws, which means that we're going to be in a lot of games. And then our largest lead was 12. Texas A&M's was 14. We got down at, coming out of the half, and we were like, okay, is this team going to fold? They didn't. They knuckled down. They got the press going. Johnny did some excellent adjustments on what he had. He played really, really good with the roster we have. Again, Texas A&M, they had a whole new roster this year too, and they were smaller, so that didn't help them very much. So it's going to be tougher for us against bigger teams that can clog up the paint a little bit more. But we have shooters, and we have athletes, and we have people that can get out and transition and compress well. My concern with Kugel, I did notice this game, and it hit me this game, is that he really only dribbles well with his left hand. He doesn't dribble with his right. So that's going to be something that teams are going to pick up for in tendencies, and we're going to have to overcome that with passing the ball a little bit more. So that was my takeaway from that game. And then we just finished the Oakland game, which we won 87-83. This is an Oakland team that's 1-3, 0-3 away. But again, they played some really, 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 really good
Purdue.
competition.
They played Houston. Yeah, they played
Yeah.
big teams, and Michigan too. They play, their losses are to like kind of good team. Probably 3 teams will be in the NCAA tournament. Maybe 4.
Yeah, and they put Purdue on their heels and had them. They were tied and kept pace with Purdue for most of that game. This game, they shot uncharacteristically high 3-point percentage. They shot 39%, and we shot uncharacteristically low at 30%. Pacheco this game was 1 for 4 or 0 for 4 before he made his first shot. We average around 52, 53% 3-point shooting. So at 30, you can imagine this would have been a blowout had we hit our shots. Our field goal percentage was still 48%, and our free throw percentage was 72, which could have been a little bit better, but still fairly decent. We were 18 of 25 there. If we keep it around 80%, I'll be happy, because that's going to allow. We've got some 90% free throw shooters in Folks and Kugel and a few others. So we've got some guys that are going to be really, really good when it goes down the stretch and allow us to do that. Chris Parker has also been someone who's coming on, someone to watch out for. He's pretty energetic. He can handle the rock, and he's pretty athletic. So he's starting to get into the mix the last 2 or 3 games. So that's someone you need to watch. But excited for this team. We were up by 15 points in the second half and just went completely cold. I mean, completely cold. And they went on a 15-0 run and tied it at 70. And then we kind of traded threes with one of their players who is like I think it was like a 26% 3-point shooter, was just on fire like the whole game. Josh, what do you want to add to that? I know I've been kind of talking a lot. We don't have Ben this week. Is there anything you want to add on the hoop side of things?
So I caught most of it from the second half. I didn't get to see the first half. I saw some of the stats with the trading of technical fouls and.
Oh my gosh, we got to stop that. That's the last 3 games, man.
Yeah, and I'll say this. From the second half, it was definitely a game of runs. We pushed a run, and the biggest piece was that transition offense. The trend when and this is every Johnny Dawkins team. If they can hold the defense to what they should be doing and actually get transition runouts, they can be dangerous all the time. There was a mix up of different lineups. They were making that run, I believe, when they had the small ball-ish lineup where Bull wasn't in or anyone over like 6'9", and that was a piece of it too. And they also weren't, they weren't getting stops. They had one where they had. I think Oakland had 1 offensive rebound and got 4 on 1 play. And that's kind of when they changed the offensive structure, or rather defensive structure, a little bit, and they started actually holding their own, we came over the edge. And I think Oakland is probably going to be in the NCAA tournament, or at minimum is going to be fighting for the Horizon championship. So this wasn't a slouch of a team. What I will say is this. What I'm seeing so far is a far different team. Well, I won't go that far. It is a different team than the team I saw playing against Hofstra. And Hofstra is my backyard where I grew up in Long Island. This is a different team. Like, they're starting to understand and play. Carmelo is starting to hit some threes, generally speaking. It's not just the Riley Kugel show, which is good. We're pretty darn deep. We can play against some different offenses, and when the Big 12 happens, all that kind of goes away, right? Because it's the conference we're in, and we should be competitive against most of the teams we're playing against the rest of the way. We should win a good amount of games, And my hope is that through early, I'd say late December, about next month, we kind of really gel on the defensive side to leave to the offense. And the last thing I'll say, we talked about Texas A&M and the press. Like when Johnny first got here, I was one of those, like, the groups that talked to them, not for any prestige, just I had more time on my life to meet him when he was coming out. When both the new head coaches are coming out, the women's and the men's team. And his whole goal was to press back into good defense, and the offense comes from the runouts or some set plays. He still hasn't. It's a decade in. There has been only a few teams that actually can do that consistently for like 10 minutes, 20 a half straight. And sometimes maybe there's a backup for other reasons. So I feel like what he wants to do offensively is starting to get there. They're starting to get into the I'll say groups, but the offensive groupings that will help them in the Big 12, and still probably filling out some pieces of that. But this is a pretty solid team. And frankly, I think Vandy's a pretty solid team, right? It's the only loss we have. They're going to be they're typically good too. Texas A&M also wasn't. They had one of their best players from Indiana, their transfer, who isn't playing, which doesn't matter. They're supposed to be a better team. They're the SEC, but they're usually a good team. So I think when it comes to basketball right now, I'm encouraged. I want to keep seeing more. Let's see what happens when we get into these games versus, Florida Gulf Coast, and see if Dunk City is back and some of these other teams. Towson should be an easier game, but sometimes they're solid too from, back in the TX days. But I'm encouraged. That's what I'll say. I'm encouraged, and I want to see more. And who knows when Big 12 comes around.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Pitt coming up on Thursday, so I'm hoping, based on who they've played, I think we'll be okay. Then we've got Quinnipiac again after that, VMI, and it's a bunch of nobodies, right? Quinnipiac, whatever. Quinna whatever. But at the end of the day, I want to see how we do against Pittsburgh. I think that's a winnable game. We've done well against good competition. I think, to your point, I do see less individual success and more team-based play on the offense, which is good. See more movement than we've seen in years past before DJ and BJ, which is great at the end of games because you're driving the basket, but you don't want to rely on one player. So when they double team you like they did to Kugel, we've got other scoring that we can go to. So the good news is we've got a lot of scoring. The defensively, as individuals, they're pretty sound defensively. And we're starting to see them in their half-court offense make the extra pass. And even in the paint, we've seen them make the extra pass, get somebody to jump and throw the rock around to Bowl or someone like that for the easy dunk or easy lay-in. And we haven't seen that in Johnny's teams offensively. Ever really. So I love the fact that we're seeing that. I love the fact that we're seeing Bowl play a lot better. The last two games, he's been like a different player. So, as much as I was giving him a hard time, right? As much as I was giving him a hard time, and if you see our chat, quit bringing the ball down, quit bringing the ball down.
Listen,
as a second-footer, don't do that.
Taco did that for like
they all
2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Eventually he didn't, and they couldn't do anything about it. Look, you're completely right, and I do think that we're seeing new things. And I just looked at who Pitt played. Eastern Michigan and Youngstown State. I'm not Bucknell. I'm not giving them 4-1 and being a. We'll see what that team is. And it's in Daytona Beach, so that's kind of cool too. It's local. I wish I'm doing too much this week. I'd love to go out there because I remember going out there the last time we had a tournament there. It was, I think, Drake, not that one that we played against and won, but those bleachers were not fun.
Yeah. If you can go out there, it'll be a good game. It's a neutral site game against Pitt out in Daytona. If you can go out and watch it, please please do so. So, all right, it'll be interesting to see how they continue to develop. I'm actually fairly confident that we can beat Pitt, which will be another good notch in our belt. Teams like Texas A&M and beating those teams early, we did it the year before with a completely different roster. And that was a big win. But those are the types of teams that help you, come tournament time at large, in at large situations. So we need to continue to stack as many of those as we possibly can. Because I think as of before we played that game, I think that was a quad 1 or quad 2 win. So if we can stack
them, they were top 50 on the road. So that should be in
quad
Pitt,
1.
I don't know. Yeah, Pitt's like, I don't know where they're at right now, but it's neutral. So there's that. But like Pitt got smashed. Well, everyone so far is getting smashed by West Virginia. I've been checking that out. Well, pretty close. I shouldn't say that, but like, they had a tight one versus Campbell. That's another old foe of UCF for those of you who are old enough. But it was. I don't know. I think a win against Pitt always looks good, and we can help West Virginia out a little bit. They would like it, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And West Virginia, once they lost Huggy Bear, going back to that press defense 3-and-D type of game, that's what Huggy Bear had, right? And so for him, Pittsburgh's actually number 31 in the RPI right now. So,
West Virginia's good. No, West Virginia's good. I was thinking Pitt. I don't think Pitt was.
No, but I'm saying
Pitt's
Pitt is number 31. I don't think they're that great
Pitt
either.
31?
But Pitt is number 31 in the RPI ranking. So again, this is a potential for another quad 1 win.
I'll take it. I'm looking at those scores, and maybe I'm underestimating East Michigan and Youngstown State and Bucknell. Well, Bucknell sometimes is a pretty good team. So
it doesn't matter. Yeah. They're number 31. So if we win, it's a quad 1. It's a quad. It's another quad. Yeah, it's another quad 1 win for us, right? And obviously Ben would like that, considering he played them in the our first NCAA tournament game with that team back when he was on that team. But if we get that, that's another quad 1 win, and that helps considering what the Big 12 conference is in basketball, because most of them are going to be quad 1, quad 2 games, which helps our RPI. So if we can do well there and bump it up with a couple of quad 1 win teams early, that bodes well for an at-large bid later on. All right, let's go ahead and swiv it yet again to a little bit of listener love.
I don't know.
Swiv it, yes, please. Thank you.
I'm trying. We get the screen where we have both our wide shot for YouTube and then the YouTube shorts or whatever. So like, I have like this. I'm in this photo. I can't. I'm like voguing here. And
I was going to say, what are you voguing? Like, what's happening right now?
Dun. Yeah, that ages us. Oh my God. But I'm looking like I can't swiv it out here because you don't see it on the shorts. All right, go talk like about listeners.
Swiv it, mini swiv it. Okay. So Econ Advisor checks in again this week. We had several others check in too. Econ said Lee Hunter listed as questionable. He was definitely playing. Tech has lots of guys injured too. Morton came back for this game. This was his first game back. So of course their starting quarterback, who was out, was the first, came right back, and you saw what he did off of rest. So this is an important game for them. And he said UCF at Texas A&M Friday Eve, and our underdogs lost to Okie State this week at A&M. So we did win that one. So thank you for that. Econ Advisor says we need turnovers. They're overconfident, them to rely on their backup quarterback. They didn't end up playing with their backup quarterback. They ended up playing with Morton, who was their number 1 quarterback. I think he's a 6th-year senior who was doing really well. And of course, he comes back for our game. Says needs Davi to find a way to score and get our running game going. As to our defensive performance last week, one of the top performances in UCF history, 9 career picks, makes him one of the national career leaders among active players. His 81 return yards makes him unique. All 3 catches on well-thrown passes, meaning he was sitting on the routes. He just stepped into the passing lane, etc. And then he says, no cost to start Davi. He's a mature 20-year-old. He's Milton, but 30 pounds heavier. No way Taven gets time to go through his progressions or isn't rushed again. Cam had to run an outrageous 20 times and pass on the run while scrambling. Still, UCF came within 10 seconds of beating Houston with Davi. He was a second late getting the pass off to an open receiver. Agree with the second late, but again, we talked about Davi earlier. Econ, I don't think you want to see that. CGA Tour checks in. He says, "Will it be 42-0?" Thankfully, it was not. I said, "I sure as heck hope not." LOL, bruh. And he says that's what our score was. Referencing the space game that OSU played us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike House 7066 checks in about the Michigan stuff we were talking about last week in the Big Ten. He says Michigan is a crap program that had to cheat on the field, so who cares? Robert, well, the reason we care is how it affects the Big 12, right?
No. I'm with you. It's like, just tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Mike House. Robert G1234 checks in. He says UCF feels like the Boston College of the Big 12. Okay, I wanted to talk about that one. How do you feel about that, Josh?
Well, do we have Matt Ryan Boston College, or I saw that in the notes. I don't know yet, because here's the thing. It's hard to compare yesteryear to today, because yesteryear you'd had money in bags of McDonald's and just give it to someone's runner, and that's how you paid people. Now it's out in the open, and it's so out in the open that the marketplace is a lot different. So
I think what he meant by that is more along the lines of where Boston College right now resides as a program within the ACC.
Oh, no.
Which is on the bottom of the conference. Are we that team that just strokes a check every year and doesn't do anything? I think that's what he's saying.
I understand where it's going, and it leads to where I was talking about, because I would say if we got into the Big 12 in, was it 2015, when we had those planes where you had incorrect spellings of research for the cows and all that, when 2015 came along, if we were in then, I don't believe we're, quote, the Boston College of Big 12, because we have a decade to run with more money in the system that was the same for mostly everyone. Mostly. There's always been money, but mostly. Now it's, theoretically, our Ethereum donor can stroke $100 million check one season, probably top 10 team. And that's just not, it's what it is. It's not necessarily fair. I mean, the Dodgers stroked actually, they're delaying their check for some people, but they just pay a lot of money and have other good things going for them, and they just keep winning. So it's that is all to say, I don't necessarily agree, because the rules of the game have changed, and we are just not 100-year-old school with a significant amount of billionaires and millionaires that are willing to give probably $30 to $50 million a year just for football to have a good team on the field. We're just not. And
not a year. I agree.
Yeah, not a year. And that's where I think I get the analogy, and I get the point, but we're not playing in the 90s or the 2000s. I went to Boston College when we played against Matt Ryan. I was up there and watched us got kind of smoked. We're not that team, right? I don't think we're a check collector either. We just are at a significant different advantage than others. We're not going to be Texas Tech with enough money to be able to pay for stuff. We're even Cincinnati, right? And I tend to agree with you. They're not the team. They're a good team. I don't think they're top 20 team, but they have also been around from 1850s. Whether or not that means all that much, they have multiple people in generations that have passed away and donated money to their institution. we might have the first generation, those who graduated in 70. So they would be in the 50s. So they're in their 70s and 80s now. So I think that means so much more right now, unfortunately, and that's the problem. So to the point, I don't think it's a fair comparison, but I get the analogy, and we'll see in a couple years.
So, it's interesting about that point and what, as far as the generational gap is concerned, right? So, one of the folks that came on the show earlier this year when we played North Carolina, the Heel Brothers, I was watching one of their Twitter feeds, Twitter lives, over the weekend, and they were talking. They had he had his grandparent, his grandpa there, and then there was like 4 generations of Heels fans that were sitting in the room as part of this interview. And then it made me think about us, and we're just now getting to the second generation, I think, truly of fans, right? When you talk about the football program as a major football program, like my kids are growing up UCF fans. So I do think there's a point there. However, I don't think we'll ever be Boston College. Like Boston College to the ACC is not UCF to the Big 12. I think we're just going through a transition year one because we weren't playing on an even playing field as far as revenue distribution is concerned. And Gus just completely left the cupboard bare. I think we're more a victim of a coaching transition than anything else. And not being able to be competitive as far as paying players are concerned. That part of that is changing next year. But I think programmatically and our focus on football and everything else, you guys all know, if you've watched the show at all, what I think about Terry and whether he's the right leader for this program. I don't think he is. So if you haven't been watching, I've talked about it all season and in the off season, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again because that's a big talking point right now. Is people are getting tired of losing, right?
Yeah.
But I think that we are in a transition period, but the DNA of our university is good football. And I think it will turn around and we will not settle for where Boston College plays football because they're a Catholic university, kind of like what Notre Dame does. It's part of their mission, right? That's why they play football. They don't necessarily care about being competitive. UCF wants to be competitive. It's the doorstep to the university. We're in the Southeast. It matters here. It's not like it is in the Northeast.
Oh yeah.
So for us to be a relevant university here in the Southeast, we have to play good football. We're now in a power conference. And I think no matter what you think about university leadership, I think they understand that. So, and the fans certainly do. And we do have some big money folks that are spending money on our football and our basketball programs now. So I do think that will change. So do I think we are the Boston College of the ACC to the Big 12? No, I don't. I think this program will get it turned around. It may take 4 or 5 years. And I appreciate, because we're all frustrated, Robert. But to me, I've used a lot of buts, which I normally don't like to. I like to use ands. And I don't think we are that program. I don't think the fan base will allow it. I don't think the university will allow it. I don't think that we can, based on where we are in the country. And for us to be, it's more intrinsically tied to the future of the university than it would be for Boston College, because everybody knows Boston College. It's a good school. The same people that are going to go to Boston College will go to Boston College regardless of if the football program is good or not. UCF has to compete within the state of Florida against FSU, UF, et cetera. For students, we have to have a relevant football program. It's much more part of the academic mission than it is at a team like Boston College. So I expect us to continue to focus on it and turn that around. So great question, Robert. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think we're different. I think it's more than I hope not. We're different. We're different.
Yeah.
Our attitudes about football are different. The importance of football relative to the academic mission is different. Our status within the state of Florida, let alone the Southeast, it's different. So I don't think we're going to make the same mistake that the Cows did. All right. Also, I want to welcome a new sub. You have your settings on private. There's several of you that do, so I can't shout you out. However, on Twitter, Dante Carr, if that name should ring a bell for you, he is one of our incoming quarterbacks that's coming in. Highly touted quarterback that's coming in next year. He's followed us. Dillard Sports Fanatic, HP Sports 34, Country Roads Webcast, and a few others. Welcome to the show. Thank you again. Just as a reminder, we haven't said it yet. Subscribe, like, tell your friends, because it's really, really important what we do, and be part of the conversation. We do these things live so you can be part of the conversation, right? All right. So thank you so much for following. Thank you so much for those of you that do subscribe. Thank you for talking about us, because we do it for you. All right. Since we don't have Alan this week, there's no oxymoronic stat of the week, but we do have Josh this week, which means we have Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
Sure. This is a pretty easy one. So according to Winspedia, the OSU or Oklahoma State has a losing record versus only 4 current Big 12 teams. So OSU has a tied or winning record against the rest of the Big 12. Name those teams.
That they are tied with, or that they have a losing record to?
That they have a losing record to.
Well, us, number one.
That's the easy one.
Number 2, I'm going to say K-State.
Nope.
Really? I mean, they had decades under, like a decade and a half under Mike Gundy, at least, that he's had 10-win seasons. Gosh, who else would they have a losing record to? Current Big 12 teams. I don't know if they've played Utah very much, so maybe Utah? No?
Nope.
Wow.
I'll give you 3 more. Let's see if you can get one of the 3. Maybe 2.
West Virginia?
Nope. That's 2 more.
Not Tech, because they've been terrible for most of their existence. Oklahoma's no longer here because they had a losing record with them.
I didn't check that.
No, they do. They absolutely do.
Okay.
So current Big 12, Iowa State?
Nope. 1 more.
Oof. Is it a new Big 12 team or an old?
I'm not going to say. You get one guess. You get one of the 3 others.
There's 16 of them now. Come on. It isn't.
I know.
They've been competitive in the Big 12. That's why I went with Utah, because they're outside. Let's say BYU.
Nope. Ofer. Yeah, of course UCF is 1-0 versus Oklahoma State and hope to be 2-0. We'll see what happens. Amazingly enough, you were wrong. Texas Tech is one of them. They're
really
24-25-3 with a 490. Yes. Houston is one of them, 10-11-1. And the worst, other than us, record versus the current team is Colorado at 20-27-1. You have to remember, some of these have been old rivalries, and at one point Oklahoma State was not as Mike Gundy good as possible. That was at a 4-27 winning record, or losing record. So yeah, the only teams they have losing records against, other than us, are Texas Tech, Houston, and Colorado, which floored me when I looked at it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I figured one of them was going to be the Pac teams, but I figured it'd be somebody like Utah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's this week's Sometimes Funny Fact of the Week. However, I saw a couple of you drop off, and I wish we would have gotten to the next thing, because we have a lot of great news in the other UCF sports that Alan does not watch, and neither does Trey or Andrew or whomever else. And Trey has been on here the whole time. He's just been like off the screen, so I've kept him off the screen.
Keyboard.
So, yeah. So I don't know what that is, but let's go ahead and swiv it yet again and spend a little bit more time on the quick update on other UCF sports that Alan and Andrew do not watch, and probably Trey too, but that's okay. All right, go ahead.
Yeah,
because I want to talk about. I want to talk about soccer. I want to talk about.
I'm burying that lead first. I want to go with women's basketball. They're 1-1 right now, and they're playing 3 times before we record again. So I wanted to get that out of the way. They are playing Tuesday, November 18th at 11 a.m. So tomorrow, if you're watching live. So yeah, go to sleep and then wake up and go to the UCF Arena and watch, or Edition Financial Arena, and watch the women's basketball team versus FIU. They're also playing this Friday, the 21st at 7 p.m. versus Florida A&M, and Monday, right before we record, on the 24th at 6 p.m. versus South Carolina State. I wanted to get that out of the way. There's a lot of other stuff too, but let's talk.
Is there a reason to watch them this year?
Man,
other than the logo, other than their logo on their jersey.
I think it's probably not going to be a good year again. It's my guess. I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping they're more competitive than last year. Let's say.
Well, our two top scorers from last year went to other teams, by the way.
Yeah, because they can actually get money. I love the coaching staff. There's a couple new people there. I think they're, from what I've saw in practice, that there's competitiveness and there's promise, but we're also in the nil area, right? I mean, if we had $3 million to throw at women's basketball, we'd probably be really good there too.
Well, we have one of the better women's basketball leagues as well. Baylor is traditionally really, really, really good. Obviously,
TCU is
TCU is good. Yep. So we've got a pretty good women's basketball league as well. I hate to say this, but I've given up on Satia Messer, so I just don't think she's got the tools, nor does she have the ability to, from a coaching chops perspective. Now, again, she's had a lot of roster turnover, but I just don't think she has the coaching chops to lead us to be competitive in the Big 12.
Oh, I've met her multiple times, and I will tell you, I don't know if
great person.
I don't know if, yeah, she's a great person. And truth be told, I don't know if we get anyone in there. I don't know if we pay anyone enough to get them in there and pay enough to the team to be able to do what we need to do. We're just going to probably be a rotation of people excelling and then going to other places for either more money, playing time, or prestige. So with that being said, let's get into the teams that are excelling and probably need more money as well. So UCF women's soccer, they won their first NCAA game versus Maine at home. It was a 2-0 score, and it was pretty dominant. I watched most of that game. Here's where it gets fun, and we're ranked 7 in this regional. We get to play number 2, Duke, at 6:30 p.m. this Thursday up in North Carolina. Here's the thing. Coach Tiff is a North Carolina gal when it comes to, her non-UCF affiliations. I'd love nothing more to knock out Duke in Durham. And I think she would too, for a lot of reasons. It's going to be tough.
Well, and she's also got a former 99er who is on the opposing coaching staff at Duke, who's been there like 20 years. Duke's had a really, really good women's soccer program for a really, really, really long time. So they were competitive for Coach Tiff when she played there, but also have been competitive since then.
Yeah.
They're a really good team. This year, Colorado was a really, really good team that we ended up losing to, which we shouldn't have.
That's fair.
And our team has done really well. And when you're talking about throwing money, when Coach Tiff was on, she was talking about how on the Olympic sports with the new rules for paying players, we have this bucket of money. It's $22 million. And she was talking about how really good it was for us that Terry, and this is something I'll give him credit for soccer and for baseball and for softball, instead of putting more money into paying players, they created more scholarships. And so in those sports, especially softball, baseball, and soccer, being able to recruit more and offer more scholarships means you can get higher rated talent to come here versus having to pay them, the big bucks. You can be more competitive with that. So that actually put her at a recruiting advantage. And she's gone from, putting an emphasis on really tall players that have good ball handling skills two faster players that can run and that can score, and it's bearing fruit. She told us at the beginning of the season when we interviewed her how she named 2 or 3 different names and how they were going to be scoring threats, and they've absolutely come through, and they're really playing a lot more together now. Against Colorado, defensively, they just did not do what they needed to do coming out of the half. They were up, I want to say it was 3 goals to nil.
2-0.
And or 2
No, they were up 2-0 and they
lost 3-2.
They gave one back
and then they tightened it.
Yeah.
Well, they gave 2 back in the first 15, and then it was 2-2.
Yeah.
And then right after the first 15, and that's what their coach said, because I watched the game. The coach said in his interview, because they're I think number 1 or number 2 scoring offense in women's soccer in the country. And he said, after the first 15, we've got to, in the first 15, we've got to score some goals. And ultimately they did. And they tied it up. And then they scored one, I think, in like the 20th minute. And then after that, we tightened up. But we just couldn't get it back. But this is a good women's soccer team. Watch the game. Duke is really good. But this is a good women's soccer team too, so it should be a competitive match. So it'll be interesting to support them. Second round of the NCAA tournament. This is the first. The main win was the first win that we had in the NCAA tournament. In a very competitive program, if you look at our UCF women's soccer program, has always been competitive. Has always been a really good program nationally. And this is the first win, I think, since 2019 in the NCAA tournament.
It might have been. I thought there was one where
might have been longer.
We had to go to UCLA. No, might not. I don't know if it was longer. We went to UCLA. I think we went to the USC or UCLA in California on a second round, or maybe it was the first round and we got beaten. But that was another tight game. But it's been a while, and good on them. They took care of a team they should have. They're playing a team, by ranking they should lose to. Let's see what happens.
All right. So the other soccer team that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So the men's soccer team was not doing good at the beginning of the season. They just weren't. Now they were playing against very competitive teams, but they weren't great at the beginning of the season. And about mid-season, you saw if you listen to the segment, you saw them doing a little bit better, racking up some wins, some ties. And then they went into the Sun Belt Conference Championship. And Sun Belt is probably top 2 conferences in the nation.
Fourth. Right now, it's the fourth. It's the 4th highest conference in the country right now.
Yeah. And ACC probably is number 1. They've been phenomenal at soccer for a long time, regardless.
Marshall actually went to the national championship last season. So they've been really good. West Virginia was ranked. We were ranked last season as well. Number 2, I think. Number 2 or number 1. And then promptly lost that. But
we haven't fell off the cliff.
Sun Belt Conference is a very, very good league. And the Big 12 doesn't. The reason we're in that, and I'm only saying this for the benefit of the viewers because a lot of them don't keep up with soccer, right? But the Sun Belt Conference, the Big 12 doesn't sponsor men's soccer or women's soccer, or they do sponsor women's soccer, which the women's soccer team played in the Big 12. The men's team plays in the Sun Belt. West Virginia plays with us. The SEC is the same way. So that's why we have like Kentucky in our league. We have South Carolina in our league. We have UCF.
Georgia Southern.
Yeah, but Georgia Southern has been really, really good in soccer, as has Marshall has been really, really good in soccer for years, right?
Yeah. And we got into that tournament. We were the 5th seed, and we played Georgia Southern the first round, and like it wasn't that long ago. It was 8 days ago, and we beat them in overtime 3-2. And then last week we played Kentucky, was number 19th, and we beat them 1-0 and blanked them. So we got there and got into the championship versus Marshall. Ranked team. Well, Kentucky was the number 1 team in the conference championship rankings.
Marshall, number 19 overall in the country.
And then just yesterday we play Marshall. I think it was pretty early too. We played Marshall, who was number 3 in the tournament, but number 12 of the nation, and we beat them 3-1. We didn't just
pretty
we
handily.
beat them. And we were beating these teams. We played Georgia Southern in Lexington. We played Kentucky in Lexington, and we played Marshall in Huntington. So we were
Yep.
playing all across, well, basically Midwest, but or not at home, and beat 3 teams to win the men's soccer championship for the Sun Belt, which is phenomenal. I don't think at the beginning of the season when we were talking about this in the segment, we're like, oh yeah, we're going to win a champion. No, but they won. And what they got for winning is to play in a couple of days on Thursday, November 20th, at home. They got another home game versus FAU, first round game of the NCAA tournament. Now, FAU won the American this year. They're 12-3-2, which pretty darn good. They were 5-1-2 in the American. So this is another like good team that we get to play at home.
And the American has the American has some good teams too. Like Memphis is perennially a good team.
Yep.
There's some good soccer being played, or football being played in the American as well. By the way, I did look that up. 2014 was the last time we had a women's soccer tournament win.
Wow. So we must have made the tournament and gone to UCLA.
We've made tournaments, we just haven't won, right? And so, but going back to the men, this is a team. Scott Calabrese. If you don't know Coach Calabrese, he's awesome. Number one, he was very successful at his previous stop. I think he was he at FIU or FAU? It was one of the two. He was taking his teams to NCAA tournaments consistently and going deep in those tournaments. Last year, we had a really, really solid team. He's a really good soccer coach. We brought him in. He was actually kind of a coup, kind of like our tennis coach when we brought Roddick in, and now our current tennis coaches. So he's a very good coach. And this year was basically a complete roster rebuild for men's soccer after last year's success. Most of those guys were seniors, moved on. And so, the first part of the season, the soccer team, it's kind of like the Scott Frost kind of situation, except in soccer, right? You're in soccer, a lot of it is tactics and strategy, and you're learning how to play, and the scoring just wasn't there yet because they didn't have the timing. They didn't have all of that stuff put together yet. But at the midpoint in the season, they started putting it together, and it's really starting to come together now. And they have a shot, I think. I think they have a shot to maybe make. They're on a high. They're like one of those playoff teams that starts peaking towards the playoffs. This is this team. It's starting to come together, especially when it comes to the scoring. They've been fairly good defensively, but not as good on the scoring, and it's starting to come together. So I expect them to win maybe 2 games in the NCAA tournament, and maybe more. But a lot of these guys are young. Most of them are international players. We didn't talk about it last time, and maybe we'll talk about it next time. They had signing day this week for softball, soccer, volleyball, etc. And women's soccer and men's soccer both brought in some pretty highly ranked number 1 players in their respective countries to play for us. And both teams, and Tiffany has really helped with that. Coach Tiff is getting UCF's name out there in the international community. Both in women's and men's soccer, and we're getting the dividends for that. So expect both of these programs to continue to do well going into the future.
Yeah. And when you have like 13 plus years of alumni or so that are all across the world, that helps with that too.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about, we don't talk about club teams, but Roger put this up there, so why not? The UCF Knights Hockey Club. It's a club. Went to the Kendall Ice Arena versus the University of Miami and won both games 5-4 and 6-4. Upcoming games, if you're in Lakeland or in the Orlando Ice Den, you can watch the UCF Hockey Club face Florida Southern College, the Mocs. That's at Lakeland on the 21st at 10:15 p.m. So nice early game for you. And you can see them in the Orlando Ice Den, which I think is the old RDV, if I remember correctly.
It is.
It is. on the 22nd at 4 p.m., a much more reasonable game. I don't know. I feel like I want to go to Lakeland. I don't think I could do that. It's a Friday night, right? Yeah, I probably can't make the Lakeland at 10 p.m. That's a really late start to a game. But anyway, the UCF Hockey Club, if you want to see more about them, knightshockey@ucf.com is how you can get that information.
And they have great jerseys. So
They
check
do.
those out. They have really, really, really good jerseys. The club team, something people don't realize is our wrestling team back in the 80s and our ice hockey team was actually very, very, very good. And they've gone to a club team, and our club team does really, really well every year and competes for championships there. I know it's club hockey, but hockey's a little bit different. You don't have as many levels, etc. And we compete against the likes of the U and UF and other people. But
The
UCF,
Cows.
yeah, the Cows. Yeah. UCF hockey is actually pretty good. So
Pretty decent. Yeah.
Follow along and maybe buy a jersey because they are really, really cool.
And their product shop isn't too bad. They actually have a pretty sweet trucker hat. But anyway, so enough about that. Let's talk about other UCF sports that volleyball ended their road swing with a sweep of West Virginia 3-0. We're 16-10 with a home contest versus number 9 Arizona State on Wednesday, November 19th at 6 p.m. The cross-country team closed out the 2025 season, so last time we'll talk about them this year. It was one of the best seasons they've had. They ended at the NCAA South Regional Championships, where 4 of our Knights recorded personal bests, and the entire squad recorded the best team finish in program history, placing 13th overall. So we're doing good things in everywhere except for football. It looks like it's what it is. Women's tennis plays in the NCAA individual championship starting tomorrow, Tuesday, November 18th. If you're watching this live, we also have softball. They're playing some Knights versus Not games this Wednesday through Friday, probably available and open to the public.
It is.
It is. That's what I thought. So that's. I was going to say. I thought, do we have Trey back? We can ask him if he's coming up for any of those.
No, Trey's still hiding out in his one week hiatus. I mean, I can put him up on the screen just for funsies, but yeah, he's still in the restroom.
AFK. But that's a long restroom break. It's not like he knows any medical professionals that can help him with that. And that it concludes the quick update on other UCF sports that Alan, Andrew, and probably Trey, but that's okay. He doesn't watch.
Yeah, he should be watching him on the bathroom. That being said, I did want to say a few things about volleyball. Volleyball right now, RPI is number 63. Year before, we did not do really well. This is a bubble tournament team, as well. So this is a team you should watch if you're not paying attention to them. They've knocked off some highly ranked teams. I know, like Arizona State, we say is number 9, and they are, but they just got off beating Iowa State number 24 a couple of weeks ago.
Good.
So they are pretty good, and they are one of those teams that it was rebuilding with the new head coach this year after Todd Dagenet left. His protege took over, who I knew very, very well. She was awesome. But we decided to move on. And our new coaching staff's doing really, really well in bringing this team back to its former glory. They're really strong on serves, and it's a fun watch. It's a quick game if you can go and support them. They play at the garage, right? So if you can go watch them play, the games are probably an hour at max. And they're a lot of fun. They're really energetic. And, the other thing is the Big 12 actually is one of the better volleyball conferences as well. Arizona State, RPI wise, is number 3 as far as RPI is concerned. Kansas is 13. TCU 17. Iowa State's 20. Colorado's 21. And on BYU's 24, and on and on and on. Baylor's 27, K-State's 29. So again, point is, this is kind of like for women's volleyball, it's almost like Big 12 with the basketball program. This is they have really good women's basketball. They have really good women's volleyball, And this team is a competitive team and a winning team. They're over 500. They're 16, I think, and 16 and 10 overall.
10. Yeah.
And 7 and 8 in conference. So they're a bubble team. The only reason they wouldn't make it as a bubble team would be just too many Big 12 teams make it in front of them, but they are a bubble team. Yeah, or upsets.
Yeah.
But they are a bubble team, and if they can, they'll go into the tournament, I think, in 3 games. So, pay attention. They're a good team. They'll surprise you, and they're certainly competitive against everybody that they play. So, have a lot of fun. That's it. That's all we have for this week. For those of you that hung out with us for almost 2 hours, thank you so much. Here's the thing. I think the biggest thing for me for this season was actually the Houston loss. I think we should have won that game, and we'd be talking about a completely different season and looking at it in a completely different way. There'd be a completely different, conversation happening had this been a 6-6 bowl team. And unfortunately, we were that close again, and Kansas the same way versus Houston. And had we won that game, this would be a completely different conversation, but it's not. And we came off a Texas Tech loss. We knew we were going to take. It still hurt. But this OSU football, this Texas Tech team is number 6 in the nation for a reason. I wouldn't expect. You heard Trey say earlier. He expects them to be in the top 4 in the playoff. In the final 4 in the playoff. This is a really, really good team. So don't take too much away from this. It's rebuilding. It is what it is. Oh, we have a lot of injuries. I'm looking forward to the transfer portal and who we sign in this class, because I think we have 2 good quarterbacks coming in. It may take them a year or so to get their feet up under them, but we need the offensive line. We've got good quarterbacks. We've got a good running back stable when they're not hurt. Just don't get too down. It is what it is. We knew. Everybody said 4 wins, 5 wins, and that's exactly where we are. So that being said, thank you all for joining. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends. I will be recording with our OSU affiliate a little later this week on Wednesday, I believe, for us to put out a preview, and I'll be asking him questions. He'll be asking me questions, and we'll go ahead and post that to our stream as well. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week. Go Knights, and
Charge on. If you've left to this point, I'm going to give away something. If you've made it this far and you want to join me at a UCF basketball game this season, maybe not Kansas, just go on our socials or find me and type in good coach, bad coach. If you're an old UCF basketball fan, you know why. Type that in, and I will try to find someone to join me at a game this season. So do that, and thank you for waiting to the end of the show. And now Roger's going to cut me off because I told him that he should wait a little bit and not cut me off too easy.
Well, no. What I will say is make sure you put it on there. Put it on there as a short as well on the show. Just saying. But thank you.
I don't want it as a short. I want people to actually the people who are actually